Looks like I've officially joined the Broken Hearts Club. Funny thing is, my heart isn't broken. It doesn't ache, doesn't sting, doesn't twist itself into knots begging to go back or be forgiven. It's just empty, like someone turned off the lights and forgot to turn them back on. And I can't figure out if I'm still in shock and the pain is coming later, or if everything had already died a long time ago and I just didn't know it. It all started at the end of January. My husband, my rock, my one true love, my everything, was going on a business trip. He sighed dramatically as he packed, saying how much he hated being sent off to who knows where again, how hard it was to leave me alone. I almost found it sweet. We'd been together for 5 years, and I thought what we had was real. Love, trust, shared routines, movie nights, breakfasts together, laughter in bed. All of it. I baked him some of his favorite muffins, blueberry, just the way he liked. Packed them neatly in a container, kissed him goodbye, waved as the taxi drove off, and headed back inside. Saturday morning. I figured I'd get a little more sleep and then take care of some small errands. I woke up closer to noon, brewed some hot cocoa, and sat by the window scrolling through my feed. And that's when it hit me. The first boom, his face, smiling, happy, relaxed. Sitting in front of a fireplace. The caption read, "Finally got away for a cozy weekend with my love." The account belonged to my friend, my close friend, the one I had coffee with on weekends, the one I helped pick out makeup, the one who shared memes with me about husbands will never get it, but we do. I stared at the screen, read it again, looked closer at the photo. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. That was my husband, and that was my friend. And that caption, it wasn't an accident. And the photo, definitely not spontaneous. I sat there, staring, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't hurting. I didn't cry. My hands didn't shake. I didn't call him in a fit of rage or feel crushed by betrayal. I just sat there, thinking, seriously? This is who I married? It wasn't even the cheating that got to me. It was how stupidly he handled it. Why would you let her post that picture? You knew I followed her. You knew I'd see it. Or did you not? Did you just not think? How does that even happen? He texted me every night from his business trip. I miss you so much. It's awful here. The hotel food is terrible. Meanwhile, her stories showed dinners by a snowy forest, ice skating dates, coffee on a charming porch, romantic walks under twinkling lights. Cozy, sweet, dreamy, just not with me. I replied with one-word answers. Okay, sure, that's it. I couldn't pretend I didn't know, but I didn't want to argue either. It felt like all my anger, all my feelings had just vanished. When he came back, he acted as if everything was normal, complained about the train ride, said how exhausted he was, kissed me on the cheek, hugged me, dropped his bag in the hallway. I looked at him and saw nothing familiar, just an empty, clumsy performance. I was making eggs in the kitchen thinking, you don't even realize I know. You can't even tell me the truth. Why are you here? Who are you even anymore? A few days later, he brought his mom over, probably hoping for backup. She's sweet, kind, always polite. We never had any issues before. The three of us sat in the kitchen. Wine, snacks, a quiet evening. His mom sighed. What's going on, dear? He says he doesn't recognize you anymore. You were so bright and happy, but now, you're so cold. I put my fork down, looked her straight in the eyes, and said calmly, your son cheated on me, with my friend. And not just cheated, he let her post it online for everyone to see, through her account, and I just sat there, looking at it, unable to believe that the man I loved could be this stupid. She gasped, of course. He started stammering. It's not what you think. It was a misunderstanding. She set me up. I sighed. You can't even lie properly. Why her? Why so openly? Or did you just not care? He stayed silent, and I didn't want anything anymore. No fights, no long talks, no dramatic breakup scenes. I already knew it was over. Inside, it was just empty. A week later, I packed my things and moved out. Found an apartment. On Valentine's Day, I bought myself a kitten, a fluffy orange one with big, curious eyes. I named him Theodore. He still calls. His mom does too. My family is in a frenzy. Even my friend, for some reason, messaged me, claiming it was all a mistake. Everyone's saying, save your marriage, think it through, don't destroy your family. But I didn't destroy anything. It was already destroyed without me. I just walked out of the room where the fire had been burning for who knows how long. And now everyone's looking at me like I'm the one to blame. And you know what's strange? I feel fine, peaceful, for the first time in a long time. I just don't love him anymore. I don't believe him. And I don't feel like explaining myself to anyone. And yes, I'm sharing this anonymously because I don't want to discuss it, don't want judgment. I just needed to say it out loud, even if it's only into the void or the quiet.
I guess it's my turn to share my story, just because keeping all of this inside has become unbearable. People will judge, throw words at me, tell me I should have minded my own business. Honestly, I don't care anymore. After everything I've been through, mentally, emotionally, and just in reality, there's not much left to lose. I had a sister older than me. Her name was Amanda. Until recently, she was the only person in my family I could call truly close. Amanda had 2 little kids. Logan was barely a year old back then, and Emma was just over 2. Her husband Mike was a decent guy. Quiet, reliable, hardworking. Not some superhero, but a family man. He worked long shifts at a warehouse, tried to save up, always fixing something in their small house. Amanda, though, she always wanted more. A bigger car, nicer clothes, vacations, a brand new kitchen, normal dreams, I guess. Except her expectations never quite matched reality. It all started with her endless complaints. Mike doesn't earn enough. We're living like poor people. I'm stuck at home with the kids and no one helps. She drilled it into Mike's head so deeply that he signed up to deploy overseas as a private contractor. He wasn't military, but he could work security on bases and earn nearly triple his salary. She told him it would only be for a year, enough to buy a decent car, renovate the kitchen, set up savings for the kids, and finally live the life she wanted. I was completely against it, but no one asked me. No one in our family ever really listened to me anyway, so he left. Promised he'd be back soon. Promised it was temporary. At first, everything was fine. Amanda held up okay. My parents pitched in with groceries and watched the kids every now and then, but soon they got tired of it. We're too old for this, they said. It's your life, your kids. We raised ours. So they backed off, and Amanda was left alone with 2 babies. One still in diapers, the other just starting preschool. I stepped up. Nights after work, weekends, whatever I could do. I had my own life too. A full-time job, my boyfriend, my own bills, but she was my sister. Back then anyway. Then Amanda started changing. Her calls turned darker. I wonder how much life insurance pays if he doesn't come back, she asked me once, her voice completely flat. Maybe it would be easier with the kids that way. At least we'd have money. I thought she was having a breakdown. Sleep deprivation, depression. But then I realized, no, she was seeing it as a transaction. Soon her loneliness turned into something else, restlessness. She started complaining about how boring her life was. My 20s are slipping away, she'd whine. I suggested, put Emma in daycare a couple days a week, get a part-time job, meet people, feel useful. She snapped, what? You want me to work at Starbucks? That's humiliating. I already sacrificed my body having these kids. Now I'm supposed to sacrifice my pride too. One evening I came over unannounced, like I often did. I had a key to her place. We both had each other's. I walked in and instantly froze. A large men's leather jacket was hanging by the door. boots on the mat. Not Mike's, different size, different style. Amanda came out of the kitchen, saw my face, and blurted out some nonsense about Dad stopping by. But our dad is shorter than me, and these boots look like they belong to a linebacker. The next day, she called me sobbing, told me everything. How she met a guy online, a widower with no kids, just moved to town. He understands me, she cried. He makes me feel alive. I've been so alone. I deserve this. I sat there silent, feeling my stomach twist. What about Mike? I finally asked. He's risking his life out there, for you, for the kids. She sniffled, wiped her nose, and said, "And what about me? Am I supposed to just suffer here alone forever?" I told her the truth, that what she was doing was betrayal, pure and simple. That marriage wasn't just about vacations and matching Christmas pajamas. It was about loyalty, about standing by your partner when it's hard. That if I ever saw this other guy again, I'd tell Mike everything, straight to his face. She cried and swore it was over, said she understood. I wanted to believe her. 2 weeks later, it snowed so hard the whole city shut down. Roads were blocked, offices closed. I decided to surprise her, bring groceries, play with Logan and Emma, maybe bake cookies with them. I unlocked the door, walked in, and froze mid-step. Some half-naked guy was chasing Emma around the living room, wearing nothing but a towel. Logan was crawling at his feet, giggling. The man turned and stared at me. Amanda walked out of the bathroom, hair wet, wearing a silk robe. We just stood there, the four of us, in heavy silence. I felt like my lungs stopped working. That evening, I sat down and messaged Mike. It took me hours to write it all out. Every detail, every date, what I'd seen. I hesitated before hitting send, but I did it. Within minutes, he called. For the longest time, he didn't speak. I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him crying. This man, halfway across the world, surrounded by sand and barbed wire, wept like a child into the phone. "Thank you," he whispered. "And I'm sorry." Then the line went dead. An hour later, I was blocked by both of them. Word got around eventually. Amanda told everyone I was lying, said I was on medication, unstable, that I'd always been jealous of her. My parents, they knew who I was. They knew I wasn't crazy, but they still said, "You could have kept quiet. Breaking up a family is the worst sin." They cut me off too. Now I have no sister, no niece or nephew, no parents who call to check in. All of that is gone. The only thing left is the memory. Me standing in that living room, holding a grocery bag, staring at a stranger in a towel, while 2 kids laughed, not knowing their world was about to crack in half. I don't regret it, not for a second. I chose the truth. And yeah, maybe that left me alone. But I'll take being alone with a clean conscience over living in someone else's lie any day. I just hope, if karma exists at all, Amanda gets back exactly what she planted in this world.
The kitchen smelled of Earl Grey tea and something else. Age, maybe. My parents' house always smelled the same. A little dusty, a little like lavender, a little like the crackle of dried flowers in a vase long forgotten. I'm 33 with my own marriage, my own habits, and my own sense of humor. One my husband doesn't always get, though we manage to laugh together anyway. That evening, we were joking around, teasing about how little I resembled my dad. It happens. "Hey, what if you're not his?" My husband joked, tossing a grape at me. "Sure, let's do a DNA test," I shot back, laughing. So I did, as a joke. No expectations, no anxiety, just a haha moment. I sent in the saliva sample, paid the fee, and forgot about it. A couple of weeks later, an email popped into my inbox. I opened it casually, coffee in hand, expecting nothing more than a coupon for sneakers. Instead, I got a gut punch. Negative. I wasn't my dad's daughter. I sat there, stunned, then reread it, and again. The laughter from that earlier conversation was now miles away. My husband leaned over my shoulder, reading the email. Wait, what? He managed slowly. I didn't respond, and then, like in some bad drama, there was a car ride. Long, silent, with my empty gaze fixed out the window and my heart pounding stupidly in my chest. I'm 33, but in that moment, I felt like a child again. The kind who still believed family was an unshakable truth. Mom had always been the moral compass in our lives. No lies, no drinking, no cheating, no yelling. Be better than this world, she'd say. Her closet was full of scarves for Sunday service. Her wallet held a picture of St. Nicholas. Every Easter meant church and candles. Every conversation carried a trace of righteousness. I walked into her house without knocking. She was in the kitchen ironing a tablecloth, just like always. Mom, I need to ask you something. She looked up and smiled. What is it, honey? Who's my father? Silence. The kind that feels like a wrecking ball swinging into a house. Her face twisted like fabric wrung out to dry. Then she slumped into a chair, deflated. You know? I nodded. She exhaled sharply. No denial, no shouting, just eyes clouding over like an old photograph. He didn't know, she said softly. You weren't supposed to either. And then it all came pouring out like dirty water from a busted pipe. Words I'd never unhear. My father wasn't my father. My brother wasn't from the same man as me. There had been another, a third, who fathered a baby that didn't survive infancy. Mom had lived how she could, or how she wanted, or maybe how the circumstances allowed. It didn't matter anymore. Every man was temporary, every one a story. But my dad, the man who raised me, loved me, took me fishing, fixed my bike, and cried at my wedding. He either didn't know or chose to stay anyway. I thought it would never come out, she whispered. I was scared. I spent my life trying to make up for it. Going to church, fasting, praying, like it could cleanse it all. I looked at her and didn't know who she was. The woman I'd called Mom now felt like a stranger. What about Dad? Did he know? She shook her head. No, he didn't. I swore I'd take this secret to my grave. The house tilted. Something inside me crumbled. The foundation on which my entire life had rested was gone. Who am I now? Whose am I? What's in my blood? I stepped outside. The wind was sharp, cold. One thought hammered in my head. How do I live with this? In the car, my husband was silent. I wanted to tell him that I wasn't the person he thought I was, that everything was different now. But he just took my hand, firmly, steadily, without words. Days passed, then weeks. I haven't forgiven her yet. I'm not even sure if I want to. I don't know what to do with the woman I called Mom, who built her life on a lie. I don't know if I should tell Dad. Probably not. Sometimes the truth is poison, but I do know one thing. I'm not the product of her sins. I'm me. I grew up, I loved, I learned, I failed, I fought, and I stood back up. I'm a person, messy, vulnerable, strong. And whatever flows in my veins doesn't change how I've lived my life. You can live with a broken foundation. You just have to learn to walk carefully, or build a new one that's entirely your own.
When I was in law school, I worked part-time as an assistant at a small but reputable law firm. The job wasn't hard. Carry documents, read through case files, sit in on hearings, and learn from the experienced attorneys. I took the internship seriously. I wanted to see how all the theory we were cramming in class actually played out in real life. I found family court cases the most gripping. Real emotion, real stakes, better drama than any stage play. There's one case I'll never forget. On paper, it looked like a routine divorce. The client was a man in his early 40s, tall, calm, well-dressed, polite, but his eyes, they looked worn, like someone who had aged 10 years in a month. He and his wife had 3 children. The oldest was 12, the middle one 7, and the youngest 3. He was a business owner, ran a mid-sized construction company, spoke clearly with no bitterness. Said divorce was necessary. It's the right thing to do. At first, it seemed like his wife just wanted to leave quietly, no drama. But it turned out to be more complicated. The man had discovered his wife was cheating, the usual way, found messages by accident. I wasn't snooping, he said, just stumbled upon something and couldn't unsee it. Then I started connecting dots, and everything fell into place. The affair was confirmed. Worse yet, there was a strong chance the youngest child wasn't his. He filed for divorce, wanted to keep it civil, said he was willing to pay child support, split the assets, no court fights, as long as the kids were spared the pain. They didn't ask for any of this, he said quietly. There was no anger in his voice, just a kind of sadness, a sense of acceptance. At first, his wife seemed to agree. But something shifted. Maybe pride, maybe fear he'd go through with a paternity test and drag it into a financial battle. At the next hearing, out of nowhere, her lawyer filed a motion requesting DNA testing. Her request, not his. She stood up in court and said loud and clear, "If you're so sure you've been lied to, then test them all. Go ahead. Maybe you'll be ashamed when you see the truth." She said it with defiance, almost a performance. But beneath that anger, you could hear something else. Anxiety. The attorney I worked for glanced at me and shook his head. I didn't understand why at the time. Later I would. The process dragged on. The test was scheduled. In the meantime, it was all just legal procedure. Filings, formal responses, positioning. The husband remained calm, too calm. The wife grew tense, defensive, more aggressive in her tone, as if trying to provoke a reaction, find some weakness. And then, the final hearing. The results were in. The judge opened the folder, flipped through the papers, and paused. For a few seconds, she just sat there staring. I saw something I'd never seen before, a judge completely lose her composure. No emotion in her voice, just stunned stillness. She read out paternity, not established, for any of the 3 children. The room went silent. The man sat perfectly still, hands resting on his knees, head slightly bowed. He didn't move, didn't say a word. And his wife, she said nothing for a moment. Then in a voice so soft it barely reached the mic, like she was talking to a friend in her kitchen, she said, "Well, I thought at least 2 were his. How am I supposed to find their dads now?" The air just froze. No outrage, no breakdown, no shouting, just silence. Somewhere behind us, a clerk dropped a pen. It rolled across the tile floor, the sound cutting through the stillness like a pin in a cathedral. The judge wrapped up the formalities. The session was closed. We stepped out of the courtroom. The man turned to thank the attorney, shook my hand too, then walked away. No hesitation, no looking back. There was no anger on his face, just emptiness, like he had just closed the book on one life and was quietly stepping into another, stripped of illusions. That day, I understood something about the truth. It doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it arrives cold, quiet, and merciless. And it shows up right when you least expect it.
She sat in the dimly lit kitchen, the youngest finally tucked into bed, absent-mindedly sorting through tea bags in the box. She just wanted something warm. Anything would do. It had been a hard day, like the last 15 years. Work, school, soccer practice, the youngest coughing, the middle one forgetting her homework, the never-ending riptights and constant "Mom, where's my..." She managed. She didn't complain. But sometimes she just wanted to sit, close her eyes, and be no one for a while. Her phone buzzed on the counter, the screen lighting up with the name Eric, her ex. 15 years as an ex, but still the father of her 4 kids, which was a bond stronger than any marriage license. She answered, calm and emotionless. "Hello? Hey." His voice was upbeat, like in those rare moments when he'd show up with bags of groceries and promises that he was finally getting his life together. "Hey, how are you?" "Fine. How are the kids?" "Your kids." "The same as always. Growing, learning." He chuckled, a sound that made it clear he had no idea what to do with that answer. There was silence on the line before he finally spoke again. "Listen, I'm getting married. For real this time. Everything's different now. And you should, probably get married too. Stop waiting for me." She didn't respond right away. Not because she didn't know what to say, but because it took her a moment to process what he'd said. Slowly, she set down her mug of half-drunk tea and let out a laugh. Quiet, almost soundless. "You think I've been waiting for you?" she asked, her voice calm without a trace of bitterness. "Well, you're still alone, not married. I thought maybe—" She took a breath, suddenly cold despite the warm May air outside. "I'm not alone," she said evenly. "I have my kids. I have my job. My days are packed down to the minute. And you call me every couple of months, thinking I spend that time staring out the window, waiting for the day Eric finally gets really married?" He didn't respond. "You left, then you got married, then divorced, then lived with someone else, then someone else again. Meanwhile, I was raising them, when they were sick, when they were bullied, when we were broke. And I wasn't waiting. I was living, and I still am. I just wanted to tell you, like an adult," he muttered. "Well, I appreciate that," she said, her voice steady. "And as an adult, I'll say this, thank you. Good luck. I mean that. But don't call me with these revelations anymore. I don't need them." She hung up, staring at the phone for a moment before turning the screen off. Her oldest daughter shuffled into the kitchen, sleepy-eyed. "Mom, who was that?" "No one. Go drink some water and get back to bed. We've got an early morning tomorrow." The girl padded back to her room, leaving her alone again at the table. The quiet returned. Only this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't painful. It felt like release. 15 years ago, when he left, part of her had still waited, then hoped, then resented. But now, finally, she let it go. Outside, a car engine roared to life. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. She reheated her tea, the ordinary rhythms of an ordinary evening settling around her. It was her life now, only hers.
In the fall of 2017, I moved to Chicago. At the time, it felt like everything was just beginning. A new life, new possibilities. As they say, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I had a few $100s in my pocket, a good supply of determination, and a heavy sense of weariness from small-town life behind me. The city greeted me with wind and gray skies, but I didn't care. Aesthetics weren't a priority. 3 days after arriving, I landed a job as a low-voltage electrician. Not glamorous work, but solid enough for a fresh start. I stayed in a shared dorm room in an old industrial building, bare bones but livable. There was a mattress on the floor, a boiling kettle, scribbles on the walls from former tenants, and a fine layer of dust on the windowsill, like it had been waiting for someone new to show up. After a couple of weeks on the job, I realized I needed a laptop to configure equipment on site. One with a working battery, since power wasn't always guaranteed on location. I found a listing on Craigslist, affordable, seemed in good shape. Reached out to the seller, and we agreed to meet near the Logan Square subway station. The guy waiting for me looked about 25. Friendly, backpack slung over one shoulder. He pulled out the laptop, powered it on. Everything seemed to check out. Said he was selling it for his sister, who didn't have time to deal with it herself. Pretty standard story. I handed over the cash, he thanked me, shook my hand, and disappeared into the crowd. That was the last I saw of him. Back at my room, I unpacked the laptop, set the kettle to boil, and powered it up. No password screen. The seller hadn't wiped anything. The browser was still open, tabs filled with social media profiles, messages, and photos. I paused. It felt like I was standing in front of a door to someone else's life. All I had to do was turn the knob, and there'd be no going back. Curiosity won. I told myself it was just a technical sweep, just checking for leftover files. But I knew that was a lie. And that's how I met Kelsey, the laptop's original owner. A young woman, apparently also new to Chicago, originally from Indiana. Lived with a roommate in a tiny apartment, worked odd jobs, took out payday loans, tried to get by. Her messages with her boyfriend were a mess. One day he loved her, the next he screamed at her, then he begged her back. A shaky emotional roller coaster. Arguments, suspicions, crying emojis. It all read like she was running from her own reality. She didn't seem to want a steady job, or maybe didn't know how to get one. Her roommate, Dana, also from Indiana, came off more focused and driven. Not without quirks, but sharper. Dana had a boyfriend named Mike. In their messages, he came across like the perfect guy. Caring, generous, reliable. The photos showed a slim guy with a kind face, always standing next to his well-loved Honda Civic. He drove the girls around, lent them money, gave thoughtful gifts. He believed in love, you could tell. Then came September. The chats between the girls got more personal. They started fantasizing about a better life. Upscale restaurants, expensive clothes, men in suits, talk about making it big. Eventually, a new character popped up, a man in his 40s from Miami. He invited them to a staff training retreat, promised to cover flights, hotel, food, even some leisure time. The word training was clearly a front. Nobody was under any illusions. They discussed it for 5 minutes, flights booked, bags packed. Stories made up for the guys, it's a work thing, we'll be busy, don't worry. Dana hugged Mike goodbye. Kelsey sent her boyfriend a heart emoji and a short love you text. 2 weeks of Florida sun. Photos showed beaches, champagne glasses, hookah smoke. A man in a white shirt with the shadow of a wine glass across someone's leg. Their chats were full of giggling, inside jokes, and vivid recaps of their sexual adventures with the passionate Miami guy. There were lines like, "Mike is such a sweetheart. If only all guys were like that. And we make the perfect team, babe." I read through it all like someone watching a play with a tragic ending you can't stop. I felt disgust, sadness, and this oddly naive craving for justice. I knew it wasn't my business, but I couldn't look away. It just felt too raw, too open, too wrong. When the girls came back, they messaged each other about how great everything had gone. Kelsey texted Dana, "He's not my type, but did you see that watch?" Followed by a stream of laughing emojis. Dana replied, "It's all about the vibe. Mike will be fine. He's a good guy." That night, I couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside. I had to be up at 6 for a job site in Joliet, checking signal cables near a chemical plant. But I sat at the desk, staring at the screen. My hand moved on its own. I opened the messages, selected the key threads, screenshots, a few photos, dialogues without ambiguity, just raw, detailed truth. Stuff no one was meant to see. I logged into Kelsey's account, opened her chat with Mike, wrote one line, "Take a look," attached the files. 5 minutes later, she must have noticed the breach. The accounts were immediately shut down. Passwords changed, all sessions logged out. I closed the laptop, laid down on the mattress, pulled my jacket over me like a blanket. Morning was coming, and so was another workday. What happened after that, I don't know. I didn't want to know. I was just a bystander. A stranger handed someone else's suitcase full of secrets. But maybe, just maybe, that night someone learned a truth they were never meant to hear.
I used to think infidelity was something that happened to other people. The weak ones, the irresponsible, those who had long stopped caring, people who didn't value their families. Not us, not me and Hannah. Things weren't perfect, no, but we were honest. We'd built something real over the years, raised 3 kids together. I believed that our slightly worn out but sturdy life was built on trust. I met Hannah in college. She studied literature. I was in mechanical engineering. We were a strange match, but it worked. We moved in fast, married even faster, and before we knew it, Noah was born. I was 23, she was 22. He came into this world frail, spending his first month in intensive care. For the next 2 years, we were in and out of hospitals. Hannah was his world. I took extra shifts, night jobs, anything to cover the bills. Then came the twins, Emily and Grace. It felt like everything was settling. No big dreams or beach house fantasies. Just an old Toyota I kept trying to fix, family movie nights, and the sound of the girls giggling in the living room. That was happiness to me. When Hannah told me she was pregnant with our 4th, I didn't flinch. I even smiled. It wasn't planned, sure, but I thought, we'll make it work, just like we always do. The baby was a boy. We named him Caleb. But right away, something felt off. Darker skin, deep brown eyes, a slightly almond shape to his lids. Not like me, not like Hannah. I joked, maybe he got it from my great-grandfather. There's a rumor he had Turkish roots. Hannah laughed too, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Months passed. Caleb grew. He laughed, babbled, crawled into our hearts. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling, as though a stranger had found a place in our home. I hated myself for it. I didn't tell anyone. Not even myself, not really. Until one night I stood over his crib watching him sleep, and this thought crept in. What if he's not mine? No, that's insane. Still, I got a DNA test. Quietly, anonymously. Then lived the next 2 weeks like a ghost, fixing pipes, grocery runs, homework with the girls. Pretending everything was normal while something sharp scraped at my insides. The results came by email. I opened the file, confused at first by all the charts, markers, percentages. Then my eyes locked on a bold line. Probability of biological relationship, 0%. I stared, frozen. Then I laughed, a dry, cracked sound. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room, scream. But I didn't. I just sat there, in silence. For hours, maybe. I don't remember. That evening I confronted Hannah. The kids were asleep. I showed her the results. She didn't cry, didn't shout. She went pale, lips trembling, and said, I don't know how it happened. I'm sorry. Sorry. For what, stabbing me in the back? Feeding me lies? Letting me raise another man's child as my own? I waited for her to deny it, to name someone, to say it was a mistake, just one time. But nothing. Just that small, broken, I'm sorry. I didn't sleep that night, just chain-smoked in the kitchen, watching a candle flicker beneath the family photo. In the morning, I drove to the garage and stayed there. Should I leave? Kick her out? But what about the kids? About Caleb? How do you tell a child you're not his father? I came home that evening. The kids didn't notice anything. Emily showed me a drawing, our family. Me, Hannah, the kids, Caleb included. At the top she'd written, My family is my fortress. I almost wept. 2 weeks passed. I slept on the couch, talked to the kids, made dinner, did pickups and drop-offs. But Hannah and I, nothing. She didn't try to explain, didn't ask for forgiveness, just waited, like she knew it wasn't hers to ask. One evening, coming home from work, I saw a man leaving our building. He glanced at the apartment numbers. Normally I wouldn't have cared, but then Hannah ran out after him, her face, panicked. The man muttered something, walked away. She stared after him like she was afraid he wouldn't come back. When she saw me standing there, she froze, pale again. I said nothing, just walked past. Later that night, she came to the kitchen, sat across from me, hands shaking. That was him, Caleb's real father. I wasn't even surprised, just stared into the table. She told me it happened 2 years ago, when I was away working on a contract upstate. Her mother was hospitalized. I barely called. Work was crazy. He was a friend from college. Showed up, offered help, stayed around. One thing led to another. Once. Maybe more. She wasn't sure. I filed for divorce. No yelling, no drama. Just papers. Hannah didn't fight it. I packed a few things and moved out. The kids stayed with her for now. I still saw them every day. Even Caleb. He ran up to me, called me dad, and I couldn't bring myself to correct him. A month later, my father called. He didn't know what had happened. Asked how I was. I told him, divorced. There was silence. Then, because of her? I said yes. He sighed like he already knew, then added, "You did what you had to. But remember, being a father isn't just blood, it's heart. Caleb's still a kid. He didn't choose any of this." A few more months passed. Then came a letter. Hannah filed for child support for all 4 kids, including Caleb. I went to court. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, read through the documents. I handed her the DNA results. She paused. "But he's legally your son." "I was deceived," I said. I filed to contest paternity, another round of bureaucracy, psychologists, evaluations. Meanwhile, Caleb got sick, breathing issues. I visited him in the hospital. He was on 4th when he saw me. He cried and reached out. For the first time in months, I hugged him. Hannah stood in the corner, silent, hollow, like someone who'd aged a decade in a season. I didn't know what to feel. How do you erase a child you raised? 6 months passed. I rented a small apartment near the kids' school. Saw them almost daily, Caleb too. The court eventually ruled I wasn't liable for Caleb's support, but I could still visit, my request. Hannah moved in with her parents. We rarely spoke. The kids still saw her. I tried not to hate her. But forgiveness, I'm not there yet. You know, when a family falls apart, it feels like the world is ending. But then through the ashes and pain, you see, life goes on. Kids grow. The sun still rises. And even among the ruins, you can build something new. Not a castle, maybe, but a shelter, and a heart that still has room for warmth.
Life in the suburbs isn't just about cozy houses, picket fences, and morning coffee on the porch. It also comes with an ever-watchful eye in the form of your neighbors, especially if one of them happens to be an energetic, nosy, and self-appointed moral authority like Mrs. Johnson, the kind of woman who knows everything, even things that didn't happen. It all started simply enough. I was at home while my husband was at work, as usual. I ordered a few things online, summer dresses, t-shirts, nothing major. The delivery driver pulled up, rang the doorbell, and I stepped out, grabbed my package, thanked him, and went back inside. That was it. But we live in a quiet part of Austin where houses face each other across sleepy streets. Apparently, any car parked near my driveway is grounds for a neighborhood investigation. That evening, my husband came home wearing a mysterious smile. Sitting at the kitchen table, he looked at me like he knew something I didn't. "What's up?" I asked. "Oh, I know," he said smugly. "Know what?" I asked, starting to feel uneasy. "The neighbors told me." It turned out Mrs. Johnson had stopped him on his way home. She's an elderly woman with a piercing gaze and a firm belief that her duty is to safeguard the moral fabric of our block. She flagged him down and said, "Do you know what your wife's been up to while you're at work?" "Excuse me?" he asked, confused. "Oh yes," she said. "Men. Coming and going. Yesterday, a man in a white car dropped something off, stayed for half an hour, and then left. That's all I'm saying." My husband burst out laughing. Thankfully, he's fully aware of my online shopping habits and even appreciates that I don't drag him to stores. But the story didn't end there. A couple of weeks went by and I continued living my life, placing orders, receiving deliveries. Yet, the air around me grew colder. One neighbor, who used to wave and smile, now avoided eye contact and pressed her lips into a tight line. Another walked past me like I had Scarlet Woman emblazoned across my forehead. The real climax came yesterday. I stepped outside. Autumn was settling in and it was time to cover the flower beds. As I bent over the garden, I heard that familiar voice. "Good morning," said Mrs. Johnson. I straightened up. "Good morning," I replied. "Getting your flowers ready for the cold? Smart girl?" I nodded. "You know, you seem to have a lot of visitors lately," she said, her tone laced with implication. I switched to my clueless and cheerful mode. "Oh, no visitors here," I said. "Really? Then what about all those cars?" "Oh, those are just delivery drivers," I explained. Her eyes lit up as if she'd caught me in a lie. "Does your husband know about these?" Delivery drivers. With the straightest face I could manage, I said, "Of course he does. He's the one who gives me the money." She nearly choked on her indignation. "Well, I never," she gasped, "and why would I waste time driving to the mall when people can just bring things to me?" I added, "Convenient, isn't it?" She huffed, her voice rising. "And you enjoy it, I'm sure." "Very much," I said seriously. "Yesterday, they brought me a pair of shoes. Fit perfectly." "You shameless hussy," she exclaimed, throwing her hands in the air. "I'll tell your husband. I'll report this to the HOA." I almost told her that my husband is the HOA president, but held back. This morning, my mom called, her voice careful, almost apologetic. "Honey, is there something you'd like to tell me?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "Well, there are rumors going around that you, have men visiting. Frequently." I sighed, sat down, and thought to myself, there's no clearing my name now. Even if I walked around wearing a shirt that said, "I just love online shopping," it wouldn't help. No one bothers to ask, clarify, or talk. Gossip spreads like wildfire, quick, smoky, and impossible to contain. Fine. I'll be that woman. The one with visitors. But there's no fun in it. No secret affairs or romantic rendezvous. Just dresses, boxes, and delivery drivers. Still, you know what? Next time I'll order something huge. Let them bring it in a moving truck and unload it right in front of my house. Let's see how Mrs. Johnson handles that.